Let's bring in Ginny Gentles, director of the Education Freedom Center at the Independent Women's Forum, and Jessica Anderson, Sentinel Action Fund president. Thank you both for coming on. I want to play this soundbite. This is one more parent from Perkiomen High School. Watch.
Honestly, I believe it had to do with all the students and the students voicing their opinion. I mean, that was huge, the student walkout that day, and that community members coming through and talking at the board meeting, voicing their opinion.
And Ginny, sometimes you got to fight, and sometimes when you fight, you win.
Right, absolutely. And sometimes you just have to walk out and stand up for what you believe in, and that's what these students have done. And courage is contagious, so I think we're going to see a lot more students standing up, speaking up, and walking out. And we're going to see similar results. Unfortunately, the adults should have done the right thing originally. Why do the students have to lead the way? The adults should have made the right decision, protected young women's spaces, protected young women's opportunities when we talk about women's sports, and certainly protected the emotionally vulnerable children who are susceptible to this gender ideology. And these same school districts that have these policies with bathrooms have similar policies when it comes to gender support plans, and those secrets that the districts are keeping from parents. That needs to stop too.
Yeah, I mean, Jessica, that's the whole thing is why are kids having to fight for things that a lot of parents think are just absolutely preposterous? Newsweek writes the following, quoting here, Donald Trump followers targeted by FBI as 2024 election nears. The federal government believes that the threat of violence and major civil disturbances around the 2024 U.S. presidential election is so great that it has quietly created a new category of extremists that it seeks to track and counter. Donald Trump's army of MAGA followers. The problem here, Jessica, the problem here is that they're not just going after the MAGA, they're going after parents. They're going after anybody that they believe doesn't share their ideology.
That's right, Trace. And this is a growing trend from Biden's DOJ that he begins to define any political group he disagrees with. First, it was parents calling us domestic terrorists. It was going after pregnancy resource centers after the historic Dobbs decision. Now we see that we're targeting any of these MAGA supporters. I'm one of them, someone that wants to put America first and put our families and our economy first, and all of a sudden we're a terrorist. All of this is a trend line directly from the DOJ that has weaponized the government against conservatives and everyday, normal, average Americans like you and I. And so this is only going to change when we have a sea change in Washington. And unfortunately, Trace, I think this is actually going to get worse as we near November's election next year.
And one of the reasons that parents are fighting so hard is because they don't believe their kids are getting what they need in education. And this kind of goes to that point. This is Chalkbeat New York. The headline reads, quoting here, New York City test scores, roughly 50% proficient on reading math exams. In the Juneau Empire, they write, statewide test scores show Alaska students still struggling. Fox 5 Baltimore writes, at more than 200 Maryland public schools, 5% or fewer students scored proficient in math. It is prevalent across the country, Ginny, and it is not getting better.
Right. The news that we didn't hear about New York is that they had lowered the standards. They lowered the bar, and still students are struggling. So parents need to be really vigilant. They need to be asking their teachers, is my child on grade level when it comes to reading and math? And if not, why? And what are you going to do? Sometimes these test scores seem too far removed from our individual child, but we need to know how our child is doing, and we need to know what the plan is to address learning loss and get students caught up.
And Jessica, really, the whole truth is she's right. You cannot continue to lower standards and hope that, proficiency goes up.
Yeah. One of the things I think everyone learned as a country from COVID is that parents have so much control and oversight over their kids' education. And it's when we stand up as parents and we basically take back the agency of our kids' schools and say, no, we're going to have a say in what they learn. We want them taught the ABCs. We don't want them indoctrinated. We don't want them put into difficult, dangerous situations like cross-gender bathrooms. And when you have parents like this great story in Pennsylvania, we're fighting it here in Virginia, when you have parents stand up on behalf of our kids, you actually cause the school boards and the teachers to go back to their original intent, which is to teach our kids.
I should never know the ideology of my child's teacher. It just shouldn't happen. They should learn to read and write, and that's move on. Jessica, Jenny, thank you both.